Welcome in, everyone. Thanks for spending some time with us. Jay Smith here, another edition of After Further Review, another remote broadcast. Yes, the coronavirus is still causing issues, and we are having to do another remote broadcast, but excited to bring on a good friend of mine, good friend of the show. Tony Catterson is joining us from his home down in Bluffton, South Carolina. We're going to talk a little bit of Clemson football, specifically looking at Trevor Lawrence this particular episode. Really excited that Tony could take the time and spend it here with us, and really appreciate him coming on. Tony, you got us? Can you hear us down there?
I can hear you great, man. I'm excited to be on. It's an honor.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's been a lot of this. We've been doing this for far too long not to have you on at some point. I know we've been talking about it for a long, long time, but we finally found some time, and I guess with this quarantine that we've all got at home, just bring a little bit of levity to some people's situations, because I know there's a lot more things to worry about right now than college football, but hopefully we can just kind of shoot around, talk some college football for the next 30 minutes to an hour and see what we come up with. But we'll go ahead and dive right into this, man. And I guess, we had brought up this topic weeks ago, talking about how Trevor Lawrence, who's entering his third year now at Clemson, we all remember that 15-0 dominance from his freshman season. I mean, at the very beginning of that, there was the quarterback drama between him and Kelly Bryant for the first 4 weeks, and then it kind of simmered down. Trevor took over and led the team to a national championship. In your mind, right off the bat, as a sophomore, to go 14-1, what did you make of that season? And do you feel like that he should be disappointed coming away from that performance? I mean, what was your take on Trevor's sophomore season?
Well, first things first. You made a lot of. He's sophomore coming in. He hadn't lost in the college football career that he's had. He hasn't lost one game, and he went up against a strong team, a strong LSU, Joe Burrow and Thaddeus Moss and all these great guys out there that came together, and just, I'd be honest with you, they were a great team. Everybody, we've talked about it before numerous times that, could things have gone different for Clemson? I'm sure they could. There were a couple calls, maybe, but I'm not going to sit here and complain about them. But sophomore.
Well, I think.
Go ahead.
I think you've got to remember now with this game, because, Clemson obviously came into this one 14-0, right? They had largely, except for that North Carolina game, I think back in, I think it was week 3 or week 4, largely they had just obliterated everyone they played. And so they went up against this LSU Tiger team that, had Joe Burrow. Everybody knew about Joe Burrow, and you could certainly make the argument, and I think it's a legitimate one, that this Trevor Lawrence-Joe Burrow matchup was the most compelling matchup between quarterbacks in college football since Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson dueled it out in Death Valley back in 2016.
Yeah. I mean, you could definitely compare the two. I watched both of them. It was in Death Valley. I was at that one, and I watched it all the way. It was a great game. I mean, they both fought their hearts out, and comparing that to Lawrence and Burrow, I mean, I don't know. I'd say Burrow dominated a little bit more than I'd like to admit, but they both played great games. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was college football that I've ever seen. It really was.
Well, I mean, obviously, when you look at the game summary of this past national championship, right? I mean, and it's important to note, while the Clemson-Louisville matchup between Deshaun and Lamar had high stakes, because, Louisville was coming high. They were riding high off of their domination of Florida State, or I think it was either a week or two earlier at home, where they just dismantled the Seminoles.
Right.
But there was still a lot on the line for it to be a week 5, I think, week 6 matchup. But this game was in the national championship. Everyone was watching. Everyone knew the stakes. And the thing you immediately have to circle on the stat sheet is, look, Joe Burrow, 5 touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence, no touchdowns. I mean, Trevor Lawrence went 18 for 37 for 234 yards. But anybody watching that game will tell you Burrow was the more accurate passer for most of the night. He threw better deep balls than Trevor Lawrence, which is something that we haven't said about Trevor Lawrence in his career, is that he was not the best deep ball thrower on the field.
Right.
And honestly, Burrow just looked more poised in the big moments. Trevor looked a little bit rattled at times, and you could tell that LSU defense got after him in ways that I don't think he was anticipating.
Well, I mean, this kind of reminds me of some older games, and I mean, there's numerous games that I could bring up, but yeah, I'd agree. Trevor, he looked very shaken up at times, and I'm not sure that, it was his first loss, and I think he had that stuck in his head the whole game. I know, hell, when I used to compete, that I'd get caught up. I'd say, I got so much riding on this. I'm 12-0. I'm 13-0. I can't lose this. And it gets to you sometimes. So I think that's maybe he got in his own head here a little bit. And I think a lot of the team was like that because they came out guns blazing and everybody saw it. We held them within the 10, I think, and within for quarter, and we came out guns blazing. So, and all of a sudden it was just like someone.
Well, it's those 3 touchdowns. It's those 3 touchdowns in the second quarter. LSU had it at the 9:17 mark, the 5:19 mark, and then the 10-second mark. I mean, they were pretty lengthy drives. So you look at that first touchdown drive, it was 5 plays, 75 yards in a minute 21. I mean, that's quick. And then the next touchdown drive at the 5:19 mark, 6 plays, 87 yards in 2 minutes and 3 seconds. And then that last one, 11 plays, pretty substantial drive. 95 yards, 3.5 minutes. And I'll tell you right now, you know this as well as anyone, it's those long drives that chew up the clock that really take the wind out of the sails of that defense. And when you're giving up a touchdown with 10 seconds to go in the first half, and they just trek 95 yards to do it, all of a sudden you're going into that locker room down 17-28, and you're like, what just happened? We were up 17-7 not 10 minutes ago.
Exactly. 17-7, and I think at the time one of the first teams to put up double digits against. Well, I don't know. I could be wrong about that, but in the first quarter, maybe that's a stat. Either way, I mean, just like you said, they came out and they absolutely slapped them up and down the field that second quarter. I don't even know the words to describe it, really. But coming off of that, I think Trevor, and we've talked about this before as well, I think Trevor is really going to come back and show his might this season, this upcoming season, and hopefully we'll get to see it on time.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely, I mean, I think he'll have a chip on his shoulder because now, Clemson, who has gone 29-1 these last 2, and we actually, before we came on air, we were actually talking about this, and look, folks, I mean, you look at the schedule, assuming we have games that are going to be played, Lord willing, you look at the schedule for Clemson in 2020 this fall, and there's just not anybody on there that should be beating them. That Trevor Lawrence, barring an asterisk type of game where it's just inexplicable. I mean, yes, we had UNC last season. Clemson fans, should remember
there's
that
always
game.
that one game. Clemson always,
and there's always that one game.
And Dabo says it best. He says, boys, this is Clemson. This is college football. Anything can happen. He said, and that's why we love it.
But they should go 12-0. I mean, you agree that Trevor Lawrence should be, I know he didn't start those first 4 games of his freshman season, but I mean, he should be 36-0 in the regular season in terms of games.
Yes, I agree. We've got Georgia Tech, Louisville, Akron, Zips, which I've never heard of ever. UVA.
They're out of Ohio,
right?
I'd
hope so. Boston College, FSU, who's not shown any strength, growth of strength.
I mean, don't get me wrong. That NC State game, the Notre Dame game, those games could pose potential challenges. Now, I believe NC State is at home for Clemson. I know that the road games for the Tigers this season are Georgia Tech, Boston College, Florida State,
You know,
Notre Dame and
that
Wake
Notre
Forest.
Dame
And
game
I'll be honest,
might
man,
shake us up a little bit. I don't know if we'll lose,
it
but
might,
we're going into
but
uncharted territory.
that's a soft road
Right.
schedule. That's a
I
soft road
100% agree
schedule
with
for the
that.
Tigers. And so, with Trevor Lawrence and his performance, and again, the guy did throw for 234 yards in that national championship game. The what I think is the critical matchup, I guess, if you will, in that game was our receivers' performance or lack thereof against LSU's secondary, because their secondary was shutting down our ability to get open in space and create those big plays. Because you think back and you watch that game over, Clemson didn't have a lot of explosive plays. Now there was, some moments, some flashes, but by and large, LSU did an extremely good job shutting down that explosive offense of
I,
Clemson's.
they came out and they showed their dominance. We've said it many times. I watched it and unfortunately cried afterwards. But I mean, they really did, and their secondary they played like a team. Clemson kind of, I don't know, even in the Ohio game, I saw it happen where they came out pretty strong for the most part, and they looked
Yeah.
good, but there was some aspects that I had never seen before. Comparing it to
Yeah.
last year, especially during the Alabama championship. I mean, that game was unreal. We just kept beating them up and down the field. So,
Mm-hmm.
and we did that all throughout the season. That season,
Right.
this season was a little different.
Well, and it's interesting too. I mean, again, you just going through the box score of this championship game, and you see that Clemson's last points were right there at the beginning of the third quarter. They had that touchdown that got them within 3. It was 25-28 at that point. And everybody felt like, okay, came back from the locker room, got some things organized. Hopefully, we're not going to let LSU put up 3 straight touchdowns in a quarter again. It's a 3-point ball game. Let's play football. And then it's just the tracks fell off of the train. I mean, there was no forward momentum for the rest of that game for Clemson, and they never even came close to
No, they
scoring, really.
absolutely just they gave up. In my opinion, well, I don't know if I should say they gave up, but they did not put in out. Maybe I don't know. I mean, it showed it though. They were not playing 100% like they usually do. They were not coming out and dominating and showing what they had, their full potential. They really weren't. They had Skowski get kicked out
Mm-hmm.
in the first half. That
Yeah.
may have something to do with it. He could be one of those people that just gets everybody riled up. So there's
Yeah.
a bunch of
But
factors that went into that.
absolutely, absolutely. And again, we're not trying to sit here and tarnish the achievements
God
that
no.
Clemson's had over these last 4 or 5. I mean, look, they've won 5 straight ACC championships. They've made it to the playoff. What's it been, 4 or 5 straight years? I think it's been 5. I think it started in 2015,
They definitely went 20 because
I
they
believe.
played Alabama for the championship 2015.
Yeah, in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
5 straight playoff appearances, 3 national title appearances, which is extremely impressive because, look, it's really interesting to me. No one talks about that Clemson-Ohio State game, the semifinal game, where Clemson had to claw their way back. And honestly, you can learn just as much about who Trevor Lawrence is as a player by analyzing that game as you can by analyzing that national championship game against
100%.
LSU.
100%. They fought their hearts out, and there were some calls that went our way, and there were some calls that should have been called. And, like I said, I don't know. That game really showed them
It showed a lot of grit and
100%.
determination. A lot of grit and determination because you had Ohio State come out and they were up 16-0 in the second quarter with about 7.5 to play. About halfway through that second quarter, it was 16-0. Clemson had done nothing on offense, and then Clemson put a nice 10-play, 75-yard drive together in 4.5 minutes. got him a touchdown, and then they scored that other touchdown. Trevor Lawrence had that, just the 67-yard run that you see replayed all the time, and that you probably will for a long, long time, even though Clemson didn't cap off this season with a championship, because that 67-yard run to score with 1:10 left in the second quarter, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It was a huge statement. All of a sudden, it was a 2-point game. It riled everybody up. And Ohio State, you could feel it was a little bit caught off guard. I mean, they were definitely on their heels, but Trevor Lawrence putting that one into the end zone, 5 plays, 83 yards in less than a minute, was huge for the Tigers' momentum. And my point is, with this specific play I'm bringing up, is you didn't see that explosiveness in the national championship game. So what I'm getting at here is, do you feel like for Trevor Lawrence to be successful next season, because look, we know against ACC opponents, he's going to tear up those secondaries, he's going to throw for lots of touchdowns, and he's going to light up the scoreboard. Do you feel like, though, in these types of football games, these big semifinal and national championship type games, that Lawrence needs that explosive play to be successful?
That's a great question. That I never thought about it like that. I'd say yes. I'd say yes, because when he's in a slump, when he plays like he did during the national championship, not a whole lot gets accomplished, it seems like. It seems, he goes out there, he has its moments. Mm-hmm. But when Trevor comes out and he's guns blazing, and we've all seen it, it is one touchdown right after another, and then it gets the defense fired up, and they're rolling, they're picking off things, and they're going pick six for the touchdown. I mean, it's a momentum changer when he's team leader. When he does and dominates like he usually does, he gets everything going, and it's like a freight train. You can't stop it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what's really going to be interesting is, again, and we've touched on this, Trevor has shown these explosive plays during the regular season against those ACC opponents, but, it's not always transferable when you get to those big-time games, so he needs to have, you're saying that he needs to have that big explosive play, whether it's a long touchdown pass, or a big breakout run like we saw, in order to get that team to that next level and give them that edge.
I think that breakout run, that touchdown in the Ohio State game, won that game, because they got everybody on the team riled up. They went into the locker room and they said, "Oh yeah, baby, we got this." So that, I think, plays like that, and I think he knows it. He can feel it. In my opinion.
Yeah.
But what I'm excited to see, kind of going off on a little tangent here, is how that energy is going to transfer over to DJ coming in. I'd like to see what old DJ's got this coming season, and how he's going to take the reins after, whether he's going to be better, which we thought nobody could be better than Deshaun, nobody could be better than Trevor. Every time we get somebody in.
we thought nobody could be better than Taj Boyd, I'll tell you the truth, because we had Taj Boyd and we had Sammy Watkins and Nuke Hopkins. Everybody was like, this is it. This is as good as it gets. It's not going to get any better than this. Boom. And then we continue to be proven wrong.
And that's what I like to see, and I think that's what a lot of the Clemson fans, they love seeing that, because we just get these guys that are, they come here because they like the culture, they like Dabo, they like the program that we've got going on. And it's not just about winning. Dabo always says, man, if you want to go win the Heisman, he said, don't come play for Clemson, because you're not going to win it, because we're a team. We play as a team.
Yeah.
We win as a team. It's no I in team. And so that's one of the things I love, and I think the Clemson fans love that as well. So.
Yeah, for sure. And look, when you go through the roster, because that does matter. Again, and I made this point a couple of weeks ago when we were talking through some SEC schools and their outlooks for this coming season, specifically Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and we were cracking open the Egg Bowl with Jack and Bradley last episode, which was a ton of fun. You can't ignore where these games are played, and you can't ignore who's on the roster. And you got to admit, with Lawrence coming back for his junior year, You got Etienne coming back. And what seems to be an overall smoother path through that conference play than other contenders for the national championship. I mean, Clemson's conference schedule is not nearly as challenging as the conference schedule of an Ohio State or an Alabama, maybe on par with someone like Oklahoma. But again, Clemson is in prime position. They're actually the favorites right now. Caesar Sportsbook has got them as a giant favorite to win the ACC championship game, and they have the second largest preseason favorite. They are the second largest preseason favorite in a Power 5 conference since 2010. And you know which team they're behind? You know the only team that's been a larger preseason favorite to win their conference since 2010? Can you guess it?
I mean, it's got to be Alabama or LSU.
Yeah. It's Clemson.
What?
Last season.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. So Clemson right now minus 600 favorite to win the ACC championship game, and the only team that they're behind since 2010 in the Power 5 was Clemson 2019. They were at minus 650.
Wow.
So that right there shows you there's a lot of confidence, as there should be. It is warranted in the Tigers' ability and to win 6 straight conference championships, no matter what conference you're in. Is obviously a historical achievement. And again, I've said this before on the show, and I'll say it again. If Clemson doesn't win another national championship under Dabo Swinney, this will still go down as one of the all-time greatest stretches in college football history in terms of performance, in terms of number of wins, in terms of quality of wins, in terms of championships, rings, you name it. This was, for all intents and purposes, is a dynasty.
Oh, it's ongoing. It's just getting started, baby. You know, it's just getting started. And Jay, you know it just as well as I do. And, well, I'm pretty sure. You'd have to double check me on this. But last time I checked, our class, our senior class, was the most winningest senior class at Clemson, I think, in college football.
It was, I believe, tied with Bama.
Was it tied? I know it was close.
I think it was tied with Alabama. It was really close. It was really close in terms of number of wins, and I would have to do a little bit of digging to check those numbers. But yeah,
it's
your
unreal.
Point is exactly
it really
right.
is. Nobody's seen anything like this in a while. You know, Saban, he's made a statement in the past. He's got a great thing going. He's a great football coach. Nobody can deny that. But Dabo, he's approached it differently, and he's definitely done things that nobody else has seen. You know, I mean, he's blowing these numbers out of the water. And yeah, you know, hey, Alabama, they've had some easy schedules too. Easy games on their schedule. We've had easy games on our schedule. FSU, you got to remember FSU back in the day. And this is not, you know, really that long ago, but 2015, FSU was a lethal team. And Louisville with Lamar Jackson was a lethal team. Now, yeah, everybody's going to sit there and say, oh, you know, one game. Well, and Alabama's got 3 or 4, you know, but it's the conference.
Well, and I want to issue a correction because I know I caught myself earlier saying 65. Obviously, that's incorrect because you can only play up to 60 games in your 4 seasons if you were to play in all 15 and make the championship every year, which again Clemson has not. So as of I read some game notes here, and I believe you're right, but last season before the Wake Forest game, Clemson seniors were 51-3. Which give them the Wake Forest game, which they won, South Carolina game, they won against Virginia, they beat Ohio State. So that's 55-4. Excuse me, and that's going to give them a pretty top spot in terms of senior classes in FBS history, because only 5 senior classes in college football history at the FBS level have gotten to at least 51 wins, and Clemson achieved 55. And that group went, they went 27-1 in Death Valley, and they were 30-2 in ACC play. So that is, again, just in terms of numbers, one of the best senior classes.
It's huge. You know, Dabo has found the lost ark. I mean, he's got the power. It seems like it really does. He's put this thing together, and it may have taken him 10 to 15 years, maybe even longer. You know, he's been in football his whole life, pretty much. So he knows it. He lives it, breathes it. He can't get it any more into it, you know. But he's done something amazing. He really has. So. And he's a great guy. He teaches these young men what they need to do and how they need to go about it. He sets them up not only, you know, to win football games, but to win at life. I mean, he really does. So there's a lot of things outside of the picture that the school sees, but not everybody that's just watching college football sees what these guys are doing. You know, they're doing a lot of community events and charity and all this other stuff. So it's a huge win all the way around for everybody. It's great.
Yeah, I agree absolutely with your points. I just, you know, again, I know we've gone on a little bit of a rabbit hole. So to tie it back to Trevor Lawrence specifically, because, you know, we're all kind of, I think in some sense, anticipating what the bounce back is going to look like because, you know, I think a lot of us, including myself, thought after that 15-0 season, like, okay, there's going to be maybe not a slump, but there's going to be a slight drop off in performance. Like, I mean, surely this kid's not going to play like a robot for 3 years and we're never going to lose a game. And we've gotten pretty close. I mean, we've gotten really close to going that 30-0. Now, we've also had that UNC game, the Ohio State game. We kind of had to claw our way out of it. But, you know, to go back to this point of how Trevor Lawrence will respond, I mean, you look at Clemson's schedule for this coming season, and they start Thursday night at Georgia Tech, which I believe is their second
Thursday
straight
night start.
Thursday night, yeah. So second year in a row that Clemson's going to open up on a Thursday night. But do you think that this game or really any game on their schedule is one that they need to be circling in particular? So I guess my question to you is, give me one or two trap games on the schedule.
I haven't been paying too much attention to Syracuse, but they always trip us up somehow. It seems like in the past, you know, we're a different team. They're a different team as well. So I'd circle Syracuse. And if I had to weigh my options here, wow. You know, UVA put up a good fight last year. Kinda.
I'll tell you mine here in a minute. I want to see if you name mine. That's what I'm curious if you'll name mine.
All right. Looking at the schedule here, you know, I really think Citadel's going to beat us. Yeah, exactly.
Right, we're not South Carolina now.
And that's another thing we should touch on as well. You know, we really need to see some performance out of South Carolina. To that rival game is always something that puts everybody on their feet, and it's a real testing game before the playoff starts. So, but anyway, looking at the schedule, Georgia Tech. You know, I'm gonna have to circle Syracuse. And man,
circling Syracuse. That's going with the orange too. And that's
but we almost lost in when was it 2018, I think. That's when Chase Bryce came in and saved the day.
Well, I'll tell you mine.
I think we'll have to go UVA.
And for me,
man, I don't know, dude.
I don't know, man. You're picking some early ones. If it was me, I would probably be leaning towards the Syracuse game. I could follow line with. I think the NC State game may not be a complete walk in the park. But here's
you always got to look out for.
There you go. You finally hit that nail because Boston College. I don't know if you know this, right? But it is a Friday. They do, but it's a Friday night game in Chestnut Hill. And I'm just telling you, the last time we went to Boston College on a Friday night, which I believe was not too long ago, It gave Clemson a little bit of trouble. So Clemson's only playing 10 Saturday games this season. They've got that Thursday night game against Georgia Tech to open it up, and then week 5 they're going up to Boston College in October. So it shouldn't be too chilly, but it's still going to be a little cool, and it's a Friday night game. Definitely one you want to circle. And I did not realize this, but there's actually a trophy that is presented at the end of the BC Clemson game. It's technically a rivalry, and it's the O'Rourke McFadden Trophy.
Oh, wow.
It's been around since
I did not know
2008.
that.
For a little bit of trivia for you. Yeah. Yeah. But for me, that's the game I'm circling,
last
is
year
that Boston
they
College game.
kind of, I had somebody make a bet with me. They bet me $10. They said, if anybody's going to beat Clemson this year, during the regular season, it'll be Boston College. I said, nah. And they gave us a little run for our money, but I don't remember the score off the top of my head. But it was, Clemson came out and smacked them pretty good. But I'm telling you, man, I'm not too worried about. I'm always, it's Clemson. I'm always worried about every game. So because Clemsoning is still a thing, but
Yeah. No, I think that's gone. I really do. I don't think that's really in the minds of anybody around the
no,
program
yeah,
anymore. I know it's not in the minds of Dabo. I don't think it's in the minds of the players and the recruit. I mean, to
it's
be
been
honest
weeded
with
out
you,
for a while now.
it's been weeded out, and there's other programs now actually that do that on a more consistent basis. Looking a little bit at Ohio State, because they've had their moments, and LSU. Don't forget LSU lost to Troy, and actually, I was going back and listening to some old episodes one time, and it's funny enough because Bradley, at the time of that loss, when LSU lost to Troy at home, I had Bradley on the show calling for Ed Ogeron's
I
head. He
do.
was like, he
Oh
needs to
my!
be
I
fired,
think I
need to get rid
remember
of him. He's not a
listening to
good
that.
coach.
I really do. Oh, but anyway, yeah, that was, what was that? 2 years ago? That wasn't that long ago. 3? That had to
Oh,
be 3 years ago.
that had to be, yeah, I think.
I'm
I
gonna
don't
look
know
it up.
exactly what it was. It might have been
Was it?
2017. Yeah, it was 2017. It was September 30th.
I
Detroit beat
remember
them
that, and I
24
really
to
thought Ogeron
21.
was going to get fired, but
Um,
because there was such hype around, even on Instagram or Facebook, any social media,
mhm.
there was a lot. He was catching a lot of crap for that game. So, and we would caught a lot of crap for UNC if we lost this year. We caught a lot just because we tied.
Oh yeah.
Well, we chased them. Um, Anyway,
hmm
that was going off on a little tangent.
And you got to remember too, LSU had already lost that. So that after the Troy loss, they were 3-2, which essentially derailed their season. You know who they lost to a
State,
couple weeks
that's
prior
right.
was Mississippi State, who
They beat
beat
the
them
pants off of them.
37-7,
Mm-hmm.
annihilated them. Yep, absolutely. And when did Dak Prescott leave
He
Mississippi State? It was
was, I want
before
to say he was
2017.
2015 or 2014, somewhere around there.
It's 2015. I think so. Yeah, I think it's 2015, 2016, around that time. Yeah, but and again, I know we kind of got off on another rabbit hole, which is totally fine. But I just going back to Trevor Lawrence, I think you've identified that. You said, are you going to which one are you sticking with? You going with Syracuse or you going with Virginia?
The sleeper,
Who's your sleeper game
I
that
think
Clemson
I'm
needs
gonna
to
have to
worry
agree
about?
with you. Boston College, we need to circle that one. So we're both circled on that one. But I think I'm gonna pick
Mm-hmm.
Syracuse instead
Mm-hmm.
of anybody else on there because they just, for whatever reason, those oranges they give us a run for our money every time. It seems like.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a game that Clemson needs to watch out for. But again, we've beat this into the ground. I think we both feel like that there's enough talent and determination on the part of Clemson coming off of this loss because that's the other big question mark. It's not just how will Trevor Lawrence respond. Remember, this is the first loss for Clemson
Sugar Bowl,
since
that's
the
right, with Kelly
2018
Bryant
Sugar
playing.
Bowl. I mean, it's been since the Sugar Bowl. I mean, and I was at the Sugar Bowl, and I mean, it doesn't feel like that long ago, but it was a long time ago. I mean, 2018 Sugar Bowl was a while ago. So it's been a minute since Clemson has tasted defeat. And I think everyone is really going to be interested to see how not only Trevor Lawrence responds, but also the whole Clemson roster and what they are, can do during the offseason with as crazy as an offseason as we're having to get prepared for the fall. Because, again, we can look at the schedule. We can talk about how soft they are and how soft the schedule is in some aspects. But at the end of the day, it's college football, and any of those
100%.
teams have the
and
potential
touching
to beat
on
Clemson.
something else here, well, kind of what you were going off of. We seem to almost skip a year. 2016, we were natty champions, lost in the Sugar Bowl. 2018 came back and annihilated. And 2019 we lost to LSU, right? So that gives me all the more reason. And I even said this to you in Triple T's while we were watching the game. I said, well, it may not have been you, but it was somebody. I said, this is not our year. We always win on
it might have been me.
An even year. So it's not our year. But we need to taste that defeat. We need to be reminded, hey, we can still be beaten. We need to be put in our corner real quick. Because this year, I'm going to tell you, if things line up and we're actually able to play, I don't think there's going to be any hesitation from anybody on our team. We're going to be smacking teams 50-plus points. And so when we get to the playoffs, ACC, we're going to be sitting pretty. It might be another Clemson UVA beat down because that wasn't really much of a game that they put up.
No, but again, I think, not to discredit your point, but I don't think anybody is expecting Clemson to struggle with this regular season. I think the big focus really is going to be how does Trevor Lawrence, because look, we all expect this to be Trevor Lawrence's last season. I mean, unless things just get really, really crazy and games start getting canceled and COVID starts to interrupt the season, we expect this to be the last fall.
Now, that's a good
Trevor
point.
Lawrence
Let
in an
me
orange
ask you.
uniform. So you've got to think.
Let me ask you this.
He wants to go out on top.
We are not able to play this year, or at least, well, I don't know how to put that. Let's just say 2020 Clemson football gets canceled. We're not going to play it because of coronavirus, right? So do you think Trevor will come back and play one more year? He's eligible for 1 year.
I would imagine he would.
Can they redshirt DJ?
Rationale I have for that. Look, obviously this is an unprecedented situation, so I'm sure that there's going to be some flexibility. We've already seen some flexibility from the NCAA in offering, for kids that were going to graduate, or who were already expended their 4 years of eligibility to come back and have another season of fall or spring and winter sports, excuse me. But I think with the culture that's at Clemson currently, I think that would be the main motivating factor behind Trevor Lawrence and other players coming back, just because of what we saw, in 2018 with the Power Rangers and our D-line sticking around and those guys wanting to get a championship, and they hung around and they were able to do it. So I think, yes, to answer your question, long answer, but I think yes. I just, again, right now that's all speculative. And so I just don't know what that landscape will look like because, and obviously, again, it's all speculation. I don't think DJ would be like, no, I'm going to transfer. Like, I think he's all in.
Yeah, I don't see him as transferring,
I don't see him as that kind
anytime
of guy.
unless just somebody has a big fallout with him, but yeah, I think
100%. But you just don't know. There's just so many variables and there's so much unknown about this current situation, and there's so little that you're able to really have a tangible answer for that I think right now the most you can really say about it is if we're able to play this fall, you've got to imagine this is Trevor's last season. He's going to want to go out on top, and I'm sure that the coaching staff is probably trying to prep him with the mindset of, this is my last season. Like, this season's not going to get canceled. We're going to play football. I want to go out on top with my guys, win another championship. But if the unthinkable happens, and if we don't have a season, then we might be doing it all
Right.
again
You
next
know,
spring,
and
getting
I
ready for
think they
next
got.
fall.
I don't think they have any time to sit down and say, hey, look, this may be my last season. But I think they're all just
Mm-hmm.
counting on
Mm-hmm.
that they're going to play. They got no doubt in their mind that they're going to get out on the field this season, whether it's delayed a couple weeks or a month or what have you. That's another thing that I think is Trevor's got in his back pocket, fueling him to get this last. I'm not going to say they're going to win, but I think they're going to be in the championship game, no doubt. Whether they're playing Alabama because Alabama's going to be coming for
Yeah.
blood, or Ohio State because Ohio State they're pissed off. they got they got a lot of a right to be.
Yeah.
I don't think
Oh yeah.
Oklahoma's really going to be. I don't know who's coming in as their quarterback, or if they even have anybody. They might just have their backup coming in. But the real threat we have here is
Mm-hmm.
to anybody beating Clemson. I think this upcoming year is going to be Ohio State or Alabama.
Yeah, I think that's the consensus is that Alabama's gonna, they're gonna be hungry and they're gonna want to, come back and have a stronger season than the two-loss regular season they had last year. Now, I've already gone through the SEC and I've talked about who feels like, they have something to prove, and that's Auburn. Because if you
Auburn's
looked at
tough,
Auburn
dude.
last
They
season,
are.
I mean, they had,
Yep.
they are tough. They lost every game that mattered. I think they lost 4 games that were really important to them. They lost all of those, but I still feel like the Tigers are gritty, and obviously they
Mm-hmm.
played spoiler to Alabama, beat them in a hell
Happy
of an
team,
Iron
man,
Bowl
and they
this
love
past
to
fall.
bring
But
it down to the wire. They're a good team too.
yeah, but you can't ignore those other teams that cause some disruption. I mean, you just look at Oregon, maybe Wisconsin kind of sneaks around. I mean, look, Minnesota beat Auburn in the Outback Bowl.
I was thinking about
So
that just a second ago as we were talking about that.
don't discredit Minnesota. Don't overlook Oregon. I wouldn't overlook Wisconsin if you're Ohio State. Georgia is a formidable opponent.
That's a good one.
There's
I don't know why they
some
slipped my
schools
mind.
out there. Yeah, there's some schools out there that can play spoiler. I mean, even remote chances, but even like a Florida, who they were given a tough game by Virginia in the Orange Bowl, 36-28 win for the Gators. But, like I said, there's a lot of football that's going to have to be played. I think, though, that we both agree that Trevor Lawrence needs to make the big play happen in the big games in order to kind of establish that momentum, but he also needs help from his guys, and we're not going to be able to see what that looks like until a little bit later down the line. I think if we want to see how Trevor performs in a big game, the only one that we can look at in the regular season has got to be that Notre Dame
I
game on
agree
home.
because that's uncharted territory for the Tigers in a while. I don't even know if they've ever been there. I don't remember them ever going there.
I think they've played there before, but it's been a long time because we had that home game with them in 2015, but we didn't travel up
We
to
did
South
not.
Bend in
Yep, and that was a
2016.
great home game. I was there in the pouring rain.
Oh yeah, yeah.
A hurricane
Yep,
came through.
Hurricane came
A
through, dude.
great
That was an
game. One of the
amazing
most.
game.
It was probably the most fun game I've ever been to. But anyway, I think Notre Dame. I
Yeah.
think you're right because Trevor. He's going into um, a different area. He's going to play these guys that always seem to put up a pretty good fight, and they can definitely beat us if we let them. So there's a lot that could psych him out. So.
Well, I'll give you a little nugget before we close that conversation. The last time Clemson played in South Bend, it has happened once before. It was 1979 when Danny Ford was coaching Clemson. Dan Devine was actually at Notre Dame, and Clemson won that game 16-10. So they've met before the most recent game in Arlington, Texas, that Clemson won 30-3. for the Cotton. I believe that was the
Yeah, that
Cotton
was
Bowl
Cotton Bowl.
semifinal game. There's three regular season meetings. Two have been at Clemson, one in 1977, one in 2015, and then one of them has been in South Bend, Indiana. So Clemson's on a 3-game streak against the Irish. Irish have not beat Clemson since that initial meeting back in
Wow. Yep.
'77.
Good little fact checker there. I did not know that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to pull it up, man. Got to pull it up on the fly. But no, I think it'll be a really compelling game. I think it's going to be one of those matchups where you kind of have to take the stat sheet and the rosters and analyze it, but also at the end of the day say, look, this is a college football game. I feel like it will feel like a rivalry game, even though it's technically not. I feel like you know Clemson feels like this is an important game, as they should feel like it's an important game. I know Notre Dame is technically not in the ACC for football, and obviously the last meeting was not a close game in terms of the final score, but I still feel like Clemson takes this
I
game
feel like they do
very
too,
seriously.
and I'm not really sure why. I think it's just because they know they can be a threat if we ease off of them a
Mm-hmm.
little bit. So I've kind of always felt that way ever since 2015. 2015, that's
Yeah,
that was the game. That was like if we were gonna lose one, that was the game. It was at least I remember.
yeah.
It's been a while, but anyway.
I don't know, man. Like I said, I think it's going to be a really intriguing matchup. But yeah, I mean, this has been a really fun conversation. I'm really
Oh, I
glad you
I
got to come
enjoyed it,
on
man.
and talk with me, and been
We need to
looking
do
forward
it
to it for
again.
a long, long time.
Absolutely, this was awesome.
Absolutely, we will. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Really appreciate Tony for spending some time with us this evening. And yeah, we enjoyed bringing you this edition of AFR. Again, it's another remote broadcast, just having to do them from home until the coronavirus lets everybody open up everything again. Really miss doing it out of the Rebel Radio studios down in Oxford, but we're here at home for now and enjoy bringing you another edition of AFR. Look, hey, if you've got a question you want us to talk about, you want me to talk about, send it to us on Twitter. You can reach the show on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. It's at After Review Show. We are on iTunes, Spotify. If you want to listen to the AFR podcast, you can subscribe to it. Just search After Further Review. Check us out wherever you get your podcast. But yeah, been a lot of fun bringing you this edition of AFR. Thanks so much for Tony for calling in, spending time with us. I'm Jay Smith. This has been After Further Review. Thanks for listening.